So hello and welcome back to our sunset silhouette mini project video. In today's video, we are going to be using black paint to create a silhouette on top of our wet on wet blend that we did last time for our sunset itself. Today, like I said, we're going to use black paint to create a silhouette of our choice. I'm going to be painting something similar to this where I have some mountains, I have some water reflecting the light above, got a little bit of land down here and some trees, maybe a couple birds. I don't know, we'll see how we feel. If you want to do this with me, you totally can. I'm going to do it right here live. If you want to do something else, that's fine. Just watch and listen to how I talk about this to begin with and some tips on how to use the cutting in technique. So we learned about this last time, the wet on wet blending. Today we are doing cutting in. If you just did this page here, allow this to dry completely before you move on. Most likely it is dry by now. Maybe you needed some time to find a reference photo for your silhouette. That takes up some time, and acrylic paint dries really fast, so you should be okay. First things first, make sure your name and period is on the back, right? And then we're going to go ahead and set ourselves up. So today we're going to be using palette paper, palette knife, and brush. We're going to use black paint. You can always take more, so just take a little at some point. You're going to need a cup of water and some paper towels, and you might want to have some extra paper handy. I have some just printer paper here, regular copy paper, so I can practice my tree technique. I want to show you a few times before I actually do it. All right, to get started, have your reference ready to go, get your paint, and then your knife is sort of done. You're going to use your brush and that paint to create whatever you want. If you need some tiny brushes, I have them. I had someone last period do like telephone wires. She needed something small. So whatever you need, I have it. Just let me know, show me your reference, and we'll be okay. For me, I'm going to start back here with this land and mountain situation. And I'm going to start by giving myself some space, like that much down here for some water. I'm going to create a relatively flat line for where my mountains meet the water. I'm going to create that bumpy ridge, and then I'm going to fill it in. Please make sure that your paper is dry. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to create the best line I can coming down. I'm going to load up my brush. Load up my brush with black. And then I'm just going to go for it. You sort of got to be brave sometimes. I'm just going to drag this back as best I can. No ruler, just go for it. Hopefully it's pretty flat. Looks good to me. Look how skinny a line I got with this brush, right? You don't need this one to make a skinny line. You can use the brush that I've given you. Get creative with that brush, right? And then I'm gonna create some mountains. Just gonna go for it. I don't know, that looks nice. And then I'm gonna fill it in. If you want to paint this with me, you can, or like I said, you can pick anything you want. If you pick something different, you don't really have to watch this video, but I think you should, just to hear how I talk about it. It's an experience that everybody had in class. I would prefer you to have that experience too. Okay. Turn your paper, make your life easy, don't struggle. And make sure that your black is really nice and solid. If it gets a little streaky or a little thin, add a second coat. Whatever you do, if you're doing a water reflection like this, make sure that that line there is straight. Now, one big thing I see people do that is a little, doesn't really work, is they want to create clouds. So day one, we did that streakiness, and then like all of a sudden they're like, oh, I want to make clouds. If you want to make clouds, please do that before you do any black. and you want to make clouds in a relating color to whatever your sunset is. So in this case, I might do, well, in this one I did some like pink clouds. You see that? Feel free to do that. You can do yellow and red to add additional texture to create those clouds. Do not take black and make a cloud. Clouds are never going to be black like that in this scenario because they're going to reflect the sunlight that's happening in the space. All right, so here's my mountains. Might be angled up a little bit. It's okay. All right. Then I want to create, in this scenario, I'm going to create some land. I'm going to do, I don't know, something like this over here. Bigger piece of land. And then I'll create a little piece over there. Just make sure you can't see through it. Over here, I'll add just a little bit so it feels like we have land on both sides. Nice. All right, now I'm ready for these awesome looking pine trees and maybe some birds. Now I'm gonna practice my pine trees first, and this technique is borrowed from our good old friend Bob Ross. And we've done this when we did watercolor, so you should be familiar with that. I'm gonna load up my brush. The first thing I do for a pine tree like this one here, well, there it is. For this one here, I'm gonna do the trunk. Then I'm going to use the corner of my brush to do some dabs, and then I'm going to use the broad side of my brush to sort of push down to create some of the branches. So I have this going to do a trunk. I'm going to do all the way down. Why not? A little trunk if you wanted to push harder as you go down to thicken it up. You're not going to see too much of the trunk, but it is going to be in there. And then I'm going to go back, load it up. I'm going to start with the corner of my brush and sort of just tap, 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 and I'm like zigzagging my way down, adding more taps as I go, but I'm allowing them to be spaced out a little bit because if I put it all together, it's going to sort of kill the light in between. So I'm going to push my brush a little harder now. Coming all the way down to wherever it ends. And you don't necessarily see that stump. It might just go, let me add some of this, it might just go into the ground. Right? Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Look at that. So here's what not to do. I see a lot of people, they'll start off okay, they'll put this, and either they will like do it too perfectly on every side, it's the same. You see this happen a lot, right? That doesn't look natural. Or they'll do this, they'll like do so many that it'll be just like totally dark in there, which it looks cool, and sometimes we'll do that. But there's something really special about keeping some of those areas open, especially when you do this with the background like this, where it peeks through, that this is sort of, we call it like killed it. You killed the light in there, right? So although that looks kind of cool, this is a little bit more interesting to look at. If you want to do some other kinds of trees, let me know. Show me a reference in person and I can show you how to do those. But we're going to try these out on our picture. And it's always nice to have like an odd number or composition. So here I have 2 trees, but they're only on this side, right? It's not like one tree and then the other. I could add another one, but I have that interest over there with some 3 birds. For me, for this piece, let me think about this. I'm gonna put one right here where that dip is. Maybe I'll do a big one here and a smaller one there. Little friend. Here's your bravery test, as Bob says. I'm gonna do it right here. Drag this down even through, oh, got a little wiggle, it's kind of nice, even through there. And maybe I'll put this little guy right here, even through there. And I'm going to start in my corner and I'm going to tip tap all the way through, and I'm still gonna tap on top of the place that I can't see because I want to keep my hand moving. If I don't, then sometimes, this looks a little odd, sometimes I don't know where to pick it up, right? So keep it moving, and you can still see the texture on top. Same thing here, I'm gonna tip tap all the way through. Helps you get the spacing correct. To there. I can add some like scruffiness down here if I wanted it to feel like it had some bushes or something. Same thing over here. If I wanted to add like a little bush. I don't know. It's up to you. Or maybe some like grasses. Ooh, I like that better. Just trying to make it the same. It's hard to like squish that up. I don't know, try it out. Maybe I want to add a tree over here. You know, a little baby. Why not? I wasn't a big fan of what was going on, but I kind of like that better. A little baby growing off the side. Okay. I'm going to add some birds to this, because why the heck not? I'm going to use a little brush for that, though. Load it up. And for a bird, I'm going to do a little, like, something like that. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe in different sort of motions. Little baby birds flying away. All right. That is the end of our sunset silhouette. I hope you enjoyed painting your version. I copied myself, so it's always going to come out a little different, right? Make sure you're using a reference if you want to switch it up from me. And what I'm looking for when I grade you is I'm looking for you to be using our technique of wet on dry or cutting in. So you allowed the background to dry completely, and now you're adding the black on top nice and crisp and clean, so it's not going to mix with anything going on. All right, don't forget to wash your brushes, and I look forward to seeing what you create. Thanks for hanging out with me and painting this sunset silhouette. I will see you soon.